What's up, everyone? It's your buddy Jayrassic, and I'm hoping that you are having the best day of your entire life today. And today is a great day because just this last weekend, we have confirmation the 1.9 update is ready to go on the Steam Workshop. And it's just a matter of when Frontier decides to go ahead and give us the release date of when that 1.9 will happen. And nonetheless, we also will have the 1.9 DLC following shortly behind it. So the next couple weeks is going to be absolutely nail-biting on what we will find out. And a lot of people are speculating that the 1.9 update and DLC will be announced within the next week. So more than likely this Thursday, which is March 24th, the next DLC or next update, 1.9 update will be announced, or at least a teaser of some sort. Hopefully next week, the 1.9 DLC will be revealed, or at least gives us a sneak peek of what is to come. So, but before we get into that whole topic, I want to give a huge shout out to all my subscribers. It's been an absolutely great ride with all the comments and support and everything from the community. It's absolutely superb, and just so uplifting, and that I have all you just subscribing to me. I just want to say thank you from the bottom of my heart. And if you're first time to the channel and you love DLC speculations along with collaborations, projects, and recreations of zoos, then definitely this is the channel for you. Make sure you subscribe right now. In fact, we're just gonna sit back and wait for a little bit till you go ahead and do that. Yep. So, just right down there. Yes. So right down here. Yep. There you go. Thank you so much for subscribing. See, I knew you had it in ya. So, without further ado, nonetheless, if you are first time to the channel, thank you so much for subscribing. If you haven't already, do so. And of course, if you like these type of videos, make sure you smash that like button. We have a lot of different content that's coming out on a weekly basis, which honestly, I do have to apologize. The last few days, I have not posted anything on YouTube or any other social medias. Just main fact, I've been very busy with life. Been working some extra overtime shifts and tours, so nonetheless, and of course family life is just kind of chaotic, and unfortunately I don't have a lot of time to go ahead and do recording and editing. Now of course I do have a lot of different stuff coming out here within the next week. I do have another episode of the Omaha Zoo that I'm going to hopefully have released by this upcoming Saturday. We do have a Reptile Gardens as well coming out here this weekend, and of course during the week we will be having a release of hopefully this weekend, if not our next week, of JT Gamers, our newest series to the channel, which will be JT Gamers Jungle Adventure, and of course your ever-loving unicorn of YouTube, Miss Ray Gamer, will also have a couple episodes coming out this week as well. So with that being said, we will have a lot of content coming out. Oh, and one last thing I almost forgot. I don't know how I almost forgot, because one of the biggest things I've been working on in my entire YouTube career, which is a huge collab with two other great content creators, Old Country and also Gecko Boy, as we are working on a collab together, and hopefully we're going to be announcing that here shortly as well. And I cannot wait to go ahead and start that, because we are going to be doing live streams, and we are going to be having probably some guest content creators as well. And who knows, maybe down the road we may have that celebrity that I've been trying to get in touch with for quite some time. But anyways, moving along, again, thank you so much for subscribing, and I want to just thank you all for all your support. As of right now, we have 243 subscribers and climbing, so thank you so much for your ever growing support. So moving along, back to the topic at hand, the 1.9 update is right around the corner. Well, again, we have just confirmation from the Steam database that it is uploaded and ready to go. All Frontier needs to do is give us that little teaser, which hopefully will be this Thursday, and then sure enough, the following weeks to come, we'll have a 1.9 update and 1.9 DLC announcement and download and ready to go. Now of course, as I mentioned before, another great game that's coming out right around the corner is Prehistoric Kingdom, and I'm very excited for that, and I will have some content out for you on that one as well. However, Frontier is definitely going to have to step up the game with this DLC. It's going to have to be massive, and sure enough, I think they're about to deliver on that, because a lot of people that are analyzing the different files that have been uploaded to the Steam database is saying that this is a huge file. I mean, a lot bigger than our normal DLCs and updates have been in the past. So what does that mean for us? Well, what they are really thinking is mechanics, because mechanics typically take the most amount of data to be able to within the file. So with that being said, it is more than likely going to be a lot of different mechanics and so forth. However, the DLC is absolutely massive as well, from what they're saying. And on top of that, which they are predicting is that there's going to be more animals than normal, which is great to hear with an animal pack, because that is one thing that we've all been screaming for, is that if we're going to continue with the animal packs, is to give us more. Now, of course, keep that in mind, folks, that we are the ones that have been asking for more animals in an animal pack. And if that's indeed the case, don't be shocked if that DLC price goes up a little bit more, because let's face it, if we go ahead and we had 8 animals before and we were paying $9.99, I guarantee you that if we go ahead and have 16 animals, more than likely you're going to be paying about $18 for the DLC. So moving along, back to the 1.9 update at hand, topic that we've been discussing. A few items that I would really like to see, and I've done some videos of 1.9 wish lists and so forth like that, but that was more on the communities aspect. So these next ones are mine of what I would like to see in a 1.9 update, and also kind of went off some ideas and theories that other people have given it as well, which I think could be some probabilities. So first theory right off the bat would be exhibits. Having a whole new form of exhibits, and I mentioned this before, would be greatly appreciated. And what I mean, not just different exhibits in general, not different animations, right? But basically different sizes of exhibits would be greatly appreciated. I think that would be absolutely wonderful to have in the game, because let's face it, a little salamander does not need a 4x4 meter habitat. It just does not need that. That is as big as a 13x13 bedroom for a in fact, honestly, my child does not have a 13x13 size bedroom. In fact, my master bedroom, it maybe 12x10. I don't know. I actually, it's bigger than that. Never mind. That's more like 15x15. But anyways, moving on. Still, the fact remains is that if a child's bedroom is no bigger than a 4x4 meter area, then why would a salamander to have that much room? So, just throwing that one out there. The other thing with exhibits is null barriers. The community is screaming for null barriers, and everyone, and I mean everyone, is definitely screaming to have that in there. So it only makes sense to go ahead and try to get null barriers within the game for exhibits. I think they would be very well welcome within the community. We've all been asking, a lot of people have been asking for it, and I just know that the creativity will explode with exhibits, and they'll probably be used a lot more often if, of course, they have the null barriers. So, moving along, number 2, shop shelves. Now, Frontier has already told us that shop shelves are coming, or actually, excuse me, let me rephrase that. More food shelves were coming, not like gift shops or anything, but with this massive update that they're having, I could definitely see more shop shelves being in there, and it would be really nice if they go ahead and include gift shop shelves, such as Looney Balloons and Hats Fantastic, and of course Uno Momento. It'd also be nice if we had some props with those. I also wouldn't mind maybe another type of food shop as well. I think there's a couple other ones at Planet Coaster. Please forgive me if I'm wrong, but I do believe that those items would be easily portable over into the game. So yes, please, more shop shelves so we could have more diversity and creativity with the game. Next up, rides. a topic that a lot of us hate to talk about because a lot of us don't like the rides. I know a couple of my colleagues absolutely despise rides, and in fact, one of the zoos that I'm working on right now in one of my collaborations, well, they just absolutely hate rides and told me I couldn't use them. I've had to beg and plead to at least have a train ride. Now, I'm not a huge fan of the rides myself. However, there is a bit of a charismatics and nostalgia when you put it in an old-fashioned steam engine train within your zoo. The reason being is because a lot of zoos that I went to when I was a kid had a steam engine in their zoo, and so a steam locomotive would be is something that I like to put in my zoo. Now, of course, the ride systems that we have right now, they're not exactly the most popular, as I mentioned already. For example, the gondola, I absolutely despise the gondola. I think as futuristic as it looks and everything, I just don't think it's very practical. A lot of zoos that I've gone to have something called a skyfari or a chairlift that they would kind of disguise as a skyfari. And honestly, if you don't know what a chairlift is, it's basically, well, let's call it what it is. It's a ski lift. That's basically all it is. So for people that live in the winter or colder regions of the world, you know exactly what I'm talking about. For those that do not, it's like I said, it's basically just go on Google and look up ski lift, and there you have it. But I think that would be something that would be really cool to have in the game. That way, it'd be a little bit more realistic. The other thing is carousels. A lot of different zoos have carousels. I can name 2 or 3 of them off the top of my head that have a carousel. And of course, Frontier already has the know-how. They have the coding, they have the designs and everything through Planet Coaster. So port it on over, Frontier. Give us a carousel. I think that would be absolutely great to have in my zoo, instead of having to go ahead and make one myself piece by piece and not have it move. But a functional riding carousel would be absolutely perfect as an addition with them. Next up would be trams. Now, of course, if you don't know what a tram is, again, use the power of Google, folks. But what it basically is, it's a land-based train with no track. And, you know, it uses basically cement paths, guest pathing and so forth. Some zoos use a tractor and just kind of pull a wagon behind it, and people load up onto the wagon and ride on through the zoo. Others zoos, such as Omaha Zoo, kind of have a land train per se, which is basically a bunch of carts that you can ride in that are connected together, and they take you through the zoo from point A to point B and across the rest of the zoo, where the other rides, such as the train, cannot go. Those are very important for transportation for people that do not that are like handicapped, for example, or have limited mobility, or just senior citizens. I think those would be very aspective within the game, and I think Frontier would benefit very well to have that. And not something with the track. Get away from the track. Just basically have it set up so that we can put waypoints along the track, along a path that the tram can go along and ride, whether it be, you know, on a, maybe it needs to have like an 8-meter path, for example, so then that way it doesn't run over your guests. But you know, something on that lines would be absolutely perfect game. So those are just some of the few ideas that I had that would be really great within a 1.9 update. The other thing that people are saying about this new update file is that it's supposed to be absolutely massive. And one of those things is because of mechanics, and they believe that there is going to be a large game mechanic change within the system. Now, whether that means updating a current mechanic that we currently have or adding a completely new mechanic, regardless of the fact, it is absolutely huge, and the community is speculating exactly what that could be. And some theories are as follows. One of the 4 things that I'm going to mention here is deep diving. There are several animals within the game that do not have deep diving capabilities that should. For example, the Nile Monitor is a prime example. A lot of people are screaming to have the Nile Monitor have swimming capabilities for deep diving. I'm one of them. I think the Nile Monitor should have deep diving, and I think it would be really cool to see a monitor swimming on 2-meter water. Also, the gharial itself is another crocodilian within the game that doesn't have the deep diving capability, and why it doesn't, I do not know. That is something that Frontier should really look into. too. I do believe that the last update that we have for swimming deep diving was, I believe, the large cats. I think like the jaguars or something like that. Maybe even the tigers. I can't remember exactly, but yeah, nonetheless, those are animals that should have some sort of aspect of deep diving, but not. Next up, one of the huge and most anticipated and most discussed topics of flight mechanics, or mechanics within the game, is flight mechanics. And we're talking avian, whether it be birds, bats, flying squirrels, whatever. The people are wanting it. The community is screaming for birds, and Frontier needs to respond eventually about the whole birds. That is one theory that a lot of people are having of why the DLC and the update is so huge, is that maybe they have bypassed the whole tropics or Amazon or Central America theme that they were originally data mined back in the 1.9 or in the 1.8 data mine files, where we found the capybara, some stick insect, and also some reference to a porcupine. And you know, with that being said, if they did go ahead and abandon that and go directly into birds, and maybe not abandon it, but put it in the next DLC, it would probably be very smart on Frontier, since it's so close to the release date of Prehistoric Kingdom, and that way they'll be able to keep a lot of it. But nonetheless, that's in a subject that we have already covered in the Avian Pack DLC video. So if you want to check up on that, see my theory on that. But as I mentioned in that video, is that it would have to be a very large pack, because we have not had many birds within since the Australia pack, to be honest. There have not been any even land-based birds, and there are so many that could have been covered. So with that being said, it is a possibility that if we are to get an avian pack of some sort, we could potentially have some flying mechanics. That would explain one reason why the file is so large. And that could be everything from including perches and different aspects of where birds can fly onto, bird houses, feeders. I mean, so many different aspects within the update that could be included for avian species. And as I mentioned before, they would have to have quite a few different animals to cover all the different regions that they've already been to. And with that being said, that would also explain why the pack is why the DLC file is so large, is for the main fact that maybe, just maybe, we'll get more than just 8 animals. I mean, just hear me out here. As I mentioned before, they would need to have a large avian pack, and more than likely it would be an expansion pack, is what I called it, more than a DLC. This could very well fit that description with the size and everything that we're looking at, and honestly, I don't even know how big it is because I'm not a computer nerd by any means, but from what I've been hearing, it is a very large pack, which could substantially support an avian DLC or expansion pack. Everything from, like I mentioned earlier, bird feeders, bird houses, and also all the flying mechanics that a bird would need in order to operate in the game could be potentially added within the DLC, or the 1.9 update and the 1.9 DLC. So, next up, another theory, number 6, would be climbing mechanic fixes. As we all know, the climbing mechanics within the game are absolutely, I mean, they work, don't get me wrong, but they're well ahead of its time. And basically, if they were able to fix it and maybe make it a little bit more simpler for the animals to be able to navigate along climbable items within the game, then that itself would be a great fix. Another theory is that there would be, I believe it's called arbitral braking, I believe it's called, but basically it's swinging from one branch to another, like for example an orangutan that goes swinging from one branch to another. Now of course I mentioned before in the in one of my DLC prediction videos or speculation videos that if we were to get any type of climbing change or a climbing fix, that it would be a good indication, especially if the update applies to the orangutan, that we would probably be getting a gibbon down the road, whether it be in the next DLC that's in the 1.9 or the 1.10. So, nonetheless, if we do have some climbing fixes within the game in the 1.9 update, I guarantee you, more than likely, we won't be getting a bird pack in the 1.9. We'll probably get in some sort of Tropics Avenue, and I'm pretty sure there'll be a gibbon, or maybe even, I don't know, possibly a sloth. I don't even know, the sloth doesn't really swing, but anyways, long story short, I think that would be a good sign for a gibbon if they did incorporate swinging within the climbing mechanics. Next up, one of the mechanics that I think that would also be a good aspect into the game, it brings us back to the Zoo Tycoon days, which is the tour guides. Now, as many of you probably remember, if you played Zoo Tycoon, you had a tour guide that would go ahead throughout the entire zoo and basically give little different speeches in front of, or not demonstrations, I guess, or education. Basically, the equivalence of animal talks. The only difference is the guest would follow the educator around the zoo versus going to specific points that you set up for animal talks. Now, that would definitely be a nice thing to have within the zoo, and the reason being is because, let's face it, let's say, how many times have you built a very beautiful and awesome set or area within your zoo, but your guests aren't going to it? Well, create an incentive for them. Not only could you put guest facilities and so forth in there, but if you had a tour guide, you could set waypoints along different points of your zoo, and that tour guide could escort your guests over to that particular part of the zoo and increase their educational in that process, as well as bringing those guests to those different parts of the zoo that they normally wouldn't be in. So I think that would be absolutely fantastic. And speaking of educators, one last thing that I think that would be absolutely phenomenal in the game, and Rudy went ahead and added this in one of his videos, and I put it in one of mine as well because I thought it was such a great idea, but of course it was Rudy's idea, so I gotta give him credit where credit is due. But I think that it is a great idea that Rudy had with the animal talk educators, and that is if we were to get a bird DLC, that if they could have animal interactions or animal ambassadors for these animal talks. And basically just hear this on out because it's a good idea. So let's say hypothetically we do get a bird or avian pack. Basically, if they did an animal talk in front of a aviary or in front of a habitat that was designed for birds, that particular animal or bird would, as an animal talk is, or educator is giving their animal talks, maybe have like a raptor or a parrot fly down over the crowd, just like spawn wherever, flies over the crowd and lands onto the educator's hand. Of course, the educator would interact with the bird for a little bit, and the crowd would go ooh ah, and then the bird flies off and just kind of disappears into the sky. So something like that would be absolutely phenomenal. That would also open up some different ambassador animals as well. For example, how many times have you gone to a zoo where you watch a animal show of some sort, and they bring out like small little animal ambassadors, such as like a corn snake or a python or something like that, or an iguana, baby crocodiles or alligators, stuff like that, where you can touch and feel and experience a personal connection with that animal. And zoos do that all the time to spark interest amongst children and adults of all ages. So with that being said, if Planet Zoo were able to incorporate that into the game itself, it would bring an additional level of realism within the game. So there you have it. Those are my top 8 ideas for a 1.9 update wish list. I think those would be, these are just a few, just basically the tip of the iceberg of the different ideas I have. But nonetheless, this video has already been going on for about almost 24 minutes already, and I don't, of course, like to ramble on and on for the end of time. So, as always, thank you so much for watching. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I think you missed your opportunity in the very beginning. But I would really appreciate it if you go ahead and subscribe right now. And of course, don't forget to smash that like button, as it does tell Google that I'm doing a great job and presents my videos to other viewers that would potentially like the same type of content that you're enjoying right now. So, as always, thank you again so much for watching. And if you subscribed, thank you again even more. And if you smash the like button, I love you even more. So, till next time, ladies and gentlemen, build, play, and enjoy. This is Jayrassic signing out. Goodbye, everyone.